personally being screwed over by the IRS and having them hang up on me when I was even trying to get in contact with them multiple times. Seeing something like this and the larger representation of Elon Musk showing up at their doors is really satisfying.
Little pig, let me in.
As they had it too good for far too long, and the rest of the other bureaucratic swamp monsters that are now getting a dose of reality. All of this as there are some major events unfolding right now in Europe with what some people are calling a false flag attack meant to sabotage the larger peace deal that Donald Trump, JD Vance, and the United States government is currently working on, that could be undermined significantly with these larger escalations that clearly some people want to happen since they do not want this war to end. And we're going to talk about that specifically with the very complicated, interconnected, woven relationship with Europe that just got a little bit more testy with the JD Vance's bombastic comments with just how fickle they are. As we have to realize, we're dealing with a totally different government than we ever have, I think, ever in our lifetimes. Donald Trump, by the way, just right outside of his Oval Office, decided to put up his mugshot. Yes, that's the picture you're seeing right there. That's the photo that a lot of people are laughing at. But if you're the person that put him in jail, if you're the person that gave him that mugshot, you're not laughing. If you're part of the bureaucratic deep state, if you're a part of the big tech social media companies and the corporate media and all the larger invested special lobbyist and interest groups that went against him, you're not laughing. As of course, change is coming, and Donald Trump hasn't forgotten that with that larger representation, but more importantly, with his actions. This tweet here, the longer we go on, the more it ages, the funnier it gets. And of course, it was someone saying, it's kind of weird that the platforming Donald Trump just like completely worked with no visible downside whatsoever. As that didn't work. Nope. Especially with now JD Vance going to Europe, as people are saying he just torched European leaders right in front of them for criminalizing free speech with these larger statements that were, in my opinion, just absolutely brilliant. Now, of course, he's over there as he's going to be a part of the larger coalition trying to bring peace towards Europe. China's going to be a part of these negotiations. The United States, Europe, Russia, Ukraine, all of them are going to be meeting. All of them are going to be sitting down at the table. And for the first time in a long time, we are going to have potentially the larger end to this Slavic slaughter that has been going on for far too long and has probably already cost the lives of 2 million plus Slavic men. This is an insane, astronomical number. It is horrible to see. And seeing this conflict now finally end brings a lot of people on a sigh of relief. But again, we had that really weird incident. We're going to tell you about that in just a little bit. But here's the comments from JD Vance here that fell flat in the room, but everyone else, because he was speaking to the top European leaders there, they were not happy with this.
And expressing opinions isn't election interference. Even when people express views outside your own country, and even when those people are very influential. And trust me, I say this with all humor, if American democracy can survive 10 years of Greta Thunberg scolding, you guys can survive a few months of Elon Musk. But what no democracy, American, German, or European, will survive is telling millions of voters that their thoughts and concerns, their aspirations, their pleas for relief are invalid or unworthy of even being considered.
Absolutely. As you can see, he kind of was like, did it land? I mean, that was pretty funny. I laughed. But he's probably looking down at all of the larger globalists that have been put in there through USAID. He's looking at the larger kind of predator class out there that hates free speech, and they were like, oh, they were probably pissed off. They were probably highly emotional. And They should be, as of course we're in the midst of a very important turning point where they understand, hey, the paycheck, America just coming in and paying all your bills, that day is over. And people need to realize it's for the better. If NATO wants to, survive, this has been Donald Trump's kind of larger notion here from the very beginning. Ever since 2016, he came out on the stage and said, why are we financing this? Why are we subsidizing all these militaries? Why are we paying for the vast majority of this when this is supposed to be an alliance? And he wants other countries to pay their fair share. And let's be honest here, the corporate media and a lot of other people are just freaking out and they're saying, oh my God, how dare they criticize Europe? How dare they're Russians? No, the Russians are actually not happy with JD Vance as well, as he hinted at the possibility of a larger military action here, specifically if there is not a larger peace deal. And that's something that I've been saying. I've been saying, hey, if this peace deal doesn't go through, go get some steerable food. Go start looking at survival guides, which very conveniently we have one available on lukeunfiltered.com. 20 cents a day. You could sign up. You could download it. You could unsign up, but don't do that. We would need your help more than ever. I want to do some more on the ground reporting. I wish I was in Munich. I wish I was reporting on this on the ground. I wish I was in Ukraine. I want to do all that stuff. It's very expensive. Help us support us. If you've been watching me for 21 plus years or for however long, your support needed more than ever. We appreciate it greatly, and the best way to do it is just through lukeunfiltered.com. So if you haven't signed up yet, click the link in the description. Click here. It's quick, it's easy, it's simple. You get emailed back a login. Just make sure, check your spam. For some reason, Google has not been nice to us. Gee, I wonder why. And all the emails with your passwords and logins are in the spam for some reason. So make sure to double check it, and then you get 12 years of exclusive content centered around towards being the best, most strongest, most amazing version of yourself, as well as 3 really cool master classes, some really fun things like seed oil cards and crap list of things at the supermarket you should be avoiding. It's a treasure trove of just little bits of knowledge meant to help you survive this oncoming onslaught of insanity that all of us have been propelled into, as of course I haven't taken a day off in an extremely long time, and I probably won't, since this is going to be an absolutely key, critical point in our history. The juncture is very big between the two major places where we could go. Full-out perpetual war with Russia, China, and other Eastern nations, the East versus the West, larger kind of oceanic 1984-like global conflict, or peace and prosperity. This as the Ukrainians aren't really happy with JD Vance. They never really were. As soon as JD Vance was picked as Donald Trump's VP pick, the Ukrainians were up in arms. As the Kiev Independent wrote, how JD Vance opposes military aid, NATO membership for Ukraine, and now he's Trump's VP pick. JD Vance's stance hasn't changed. It has been codified with Donald Trump's stance, as JD Vance also made a very similar statement saying, no, we're not going to go back to the 2014 borders. No, you guys can't join NATO. No, we can't support you guys. And Zelensky isn't happy about this, as it looks like he's already, before the negotiations have even kind of begun here, is dismissing the U.S. peace plan. And he's doing some things right now that are a little bit, let's just say, questionable here, as he says Trump has no plan to, quote, end the war in Ukraine. And he has declared that Putin definitely does not want peace. He wants NATO membership, and if he can't get it, he's also working out a way to specifically try to create his own new form of NATO with other Eastern Bloc European countries right on Russia's border that could undermine a lot of these larger peace deals and negotiations, since, of course, the Russians' red line is that Ukraine cannot be in NATO. That's kind of always been the red line. That's what kind of participated all of this, as USAID has been financing a larger revolution in Ukraine since 2006. They got it in 2014, and then there was larger talks like, yeah, we're going into the European Union, we're going to NATO. And Russia's like, right on our doorsteps? Yet, please don't. But the statements from Zelensky today, specifically with this drone attack recently, really does highlight a kind of weird, precarious situation that a lot of us are in, because already, we haven't even sat down to the table. The Russians are like, what do you mean we're going to be fighting here? And the Ukrainians like, no, there's no peace deal here. And this is what Volodymyr Zelensky recently had to say about creating his own new NATO alliance.
When we speak, and we spoke with the President Biden, and we spoke with the President Trump, and especially now with the President Trump, I asked, so, okay, if it's not NATO for today, if it's not NATO, we will ask tomorrow, it doesn't matter. But if we're speaking about today, what alternatives? What you know, the alternatives? I don't know. What I see, if we don't have NATO, real NATO, we will make NATO in Ukraine. It means that we need to increase our soldiers, our army, twice. We need...
And of course, the Russians want demilitarization. The Ukrainians want to build up their military. And they're also reaching out to countries like Lithuania and Poland to create their own form of defensive pacts. As of course, nothing could go wrong in Europe with defensive pacts and allies and alliances that are banded together and grouped together. That never went wrong in Europe. And now, boom, we have this larger drone attack, as Volodymyr Zelensky has announced that last night the Russians allegedly attacked with a high explosive warhead a shelter protecting the world from, quote, radiation that destroyed the fourth power unit at the Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant. This as we got more shocking new footage. And if there ever was a situation that would escalate this, it would be an attack on a nuclear facility that would spread nuclear radiation everywhere. Now, thank goodness that did not happen yesterday, but we came close to it. Now, Volodymyr Zelensky is, of course, talking about this, blaming the Russians directly on this. The Russian government is now claiming that last night's drone attack on the Chernobyl nuclear power plant was, quote, a false flag attack and not by the Russian military. Now, who do you believe here? As of course, during times of war, people lie. And disinformation, misinformation, false information, it's all a part of the larger kind of propaganda war effort here. But I think it's fair to say we dodged the bullet here. And I've been warning about this specifically for a while, saying be careful, because there are going to be some people that are going to try to sabotage these larger peace deals. And already it looks like this was a larger sabotage attempt. And thank goodness there was no other larger catastrophe here that unfolded. But it does show you, holy freaking cow, this is a severe situation, because there's also, if this is already going on, there's the likelihood, there's the possibility of more of this developing, more of this happening in other kind of underhanded ways, especially with small suitcase nuclear weapons that also could be potentially deployed here. And that would be the game changer. That would be the galvanizing Pearl Harbor-like event that would drastically evoke a lot of other countries coming together, a lot of other kind of people saying, you know what, peace deal? You want a peace deal when there's going to be nuclear fallout here? There's nuclear weapons being used here? And what better way to sabotage everything than to create this one galvanizing event that would create an absolute haywire of a situation and have both sides fighting each other? Now, who do you believe here? Do you think the Ukrainians are telling the truth here? Do you think the Russians are telling the truth here? We're living in such a very complex world where there's so much confusing data and so much confusing information. But I always ask myself, Qui Bono, who is set to benefit? Now, the negotiations are tough. The Russians look like they're not going to get everything they want. The Ukrainians look like they're definitely not going to get everything that they want. The conditions that JD Vance is specifically talking about is something that the Ukrainians have always said was totally unacceptable, something that they would never agree to, as the Russians want the territory that they fought for. The Ukrainians want their old territory. There's also the specific deal of Ukraine wanting security protections, saying, hey, these guys invaded us. These guys attacked us. These guys came into our country. We want to make sure that never happens, especially after the failed kind of Minsk negotiations that happened when Ukraine denuclearized in order to have specific protections. And, you could argue that, the United States and other NATO countries didn't really, help them or protect them. But in reality, they kind of did. especially with the huge, vast sums of money that went missing, that Volodymyr Zelensky just even admitted to. $100 billion. Poof, gone. Where'd it go? Zelensky's like, I don't know. Top-level criminality here. Lots of horrible situations for the people of Ukraine. I mean, the amount of human trafficking, the amount of death, the amount of destruction that the people of Ukraine have to deal with is just absolutely astronomical. It is absolutely horrific. It needs to end at all cost here. Will it end here? I don't know. But the negotiations are complex, as of course the United States is also talking about the possibility of providing air cover for a peacekeeping force in Ukraine, as there already have been situations rolled out from the Americans about having Americans boots on the grounds. There's also larger talks about a buffer zone, about a peacekeeping force there that could be there in order to prevent hostile actions from happening. But if that happens, if there's American troops there, or let's just say Chinese troops there, or who knows, whatever kind of troops there, that could be a perfect kind of moment for more false flag operations that could now invoke a larger, bigger escalation that could happen either by an accident or by a deliberate evil force out there. So when you look at this larger kind of Qui Bono, it does seem on face value that the Ukrainians now more than ever don't want this deal, and this deal for them doesn't look that advantageous. So if you're forced to kind of agree to a deal, as Donald Trump, he's a master at making these deals, what better way to sabotage it than, of course, escalate it, as the CIA is also involved here. CIA incurrently involved ever since 2006, and they're the ones that have been preparing, building up, and literally setting up the trenches ever since 2014. They've been the ones training the special forces there. There are specific sects of the Ukrainian military that are extremely capable, are extremely powerful and efficient with their forces, but there's only a few of them. There's not that many of them. There's a lot of desertion. There's a lot of territory that has already been lost here. What's going to be the future here of this larger kind of scenario here? Well, I think humanity came very close from this situation, absolutely, totally spiraling out of control. Now, the people on the corporate media aren't doing anyone any favors. I think we do have to keep a focus on peace. We do have to focus on larger deals that, of course, will work out for the benefit of all the people involved here. This conflict, this fighting has gone on for far too long. How do you end it, especially now when we have larger kind of potential sabotage attacks that are meant to derail the peace negotiations here? Not an easy situation to be in, but hopefully a situation that gets resolved somehow. This drone news should be way bigger news. The fact that it's not is kind of concerning, as the first thing that I'm thinking about is also the Ukrainian missiles that were used, the missile defense systems that were used that landed in Poland, that automatically had the Ukrainians call up NATO to declare Article 5 without even investigating and finding out what happened here, as they declared that Russia somehow bombed Poland. That was, again, another major event that I believe should be called out here. I believe this larger drone attack should be investigated. We should look into what's going on here, and it's something that could have sabotaged and destroyed world peace many times over. And I don't think you guys understand just how close we are to that. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more. Count your blessings. Love your family. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy your loved ones. Sign up to LukeUnfiltered.com. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on youtube.com/wearechange.